Hello there. So we are in the month of the Cryptid Readathon. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is going to be cryptid books with like one other book that is not about cryptids. It's about cats. Recently, I read a book that was super cute and heartfelt and just a little emotional book called The Guest Cat by Takashi Harade. I apologize if I'm saying that last name wrong because I'm not quite sure how to say it. And it's about this couple and they rent this home and it's in this little area where there's this weird little alley called like Lightning Alley. It's kind of in a zigzag shape and there's some other houses kind of nearby them. This cat starts to visit this couple and kind of becomes like part of their home, even though the cat belongs to someone else like down the way. And it seems like the people that live down the way don't even know that the cat comes and like visits them and comes in their house and like sleeps there sometimes. It just like hangs out because it's an outdoor cat, so kind of does what it wants. And it was just a really cute story. It's sweet at some parts and it's sad at others, and I really enjoyed it. Just a little novella. I love books about cats. All right, so stuff I've been reading for the Cryptid Readathon. So for the month of November, I've been hosting the Cryptid Readathon with Jason's Weird Reads and Fiber Artsy. I have read two books so far that I finished. I read The Legend of Ogopogo by Jason Hewlett, and I talked about that a little bit in the last recent reads video. If you haven't seen that one and would like to check it out, I'll put a link to that down below as well. The Legend of Ogopogo, it's a nonfiction. It follows Jason Hewlett as he goes and investigates the legend of Ogopogo. So you get into like some of the backstory of this lake creature, sea monster type cryptid that could possibly be in the Lake Okanagan in Canada. And it's kind of crazy, and I don't know if you guys ever saw that really famous picture that was taken a few years back of like what was possibly Ogopogo, which is like one of the crazier photos I've seen. You know, a lot of people obviously think it's photoshopped and whatnot, and it's always healthy to have skepticism with this stuff, you know. Like I just find it fascinating that these creatures could exist. But the picture, and you know what? I'll put it up here too so you can see it. It's this creature and the head almost looks like a wolf underwater, and there's these two like horns sticking up, and it's such a weird picture. If that's actually real, like it looks like some weird creature in the water, that picture. Or we'll say this picture because now there should be a picture here. When I'm filming this, there is no photo, but I'll find it and put it up. Anyway, so it follows him and filmmaker Eli Watson. Eli is from the Small Town Monsters crew, and they're kind of like a film collective. It was started by Seth Breedlove and company, and they do all kinds of films that are about like Bigfoot and lake monsters and aliens and just all kinds of different cryptids and stuff. And they have a YouTube channel that I watch on the regular. And I'm just a big fan of them overall. And they just started a publishing imprint called the Small Town Monsters Publications or whatever, something along those lines. If you want to see what books they have, I can put a link down to their little publishing company if you're curious. It's mainly like cryptids and alien stuff. So there's a bunch of books that I want to get from them. They have one about like the dog man in Texas and different stuff like that. I like all this weird stuff, so I'm into it. But anyway, so yeah, it follows Eli Watson and Jason Hewlett's kind of like journey as they go to the area where Lake Okanagan is, and they talk to different people who have like a wealth of knowledge from research that they've done on Ogopogo, and then also talking to the native people who, to them, Ogopogo, I am not even going to try to say the name that they actually call it because I would absolutely butcher it. I'll put it down here, what they call it. And to them, it's the spirit of the water. It's not quite a physical being, but at points, it takes on a physical presence if it wants to show itself to you, you know, and you make offerings of like tobacco and stuff for safe passage across the water. And there's a specific area where they say it lives, and it's quite fascinating. And it was a really great look at it. And the book is it's a shorter book. It's easy to read. If you have any kind of interest in lake monsters or sea monsters or water-based cryptids, it was a really great read. It was really easy to read. It was something I read within like, I think it was like 2 days. And they're also, I don't know if it's out yet. The film they made that is what the book is also supporting is it's called Cursed Waters. and it should be on their YouTube channel, I would think sometime soon. They're probably going to sell DVDs of it too. So you can probably find that information on their website, which I think is just Small Town Monsters. All right, so finished that book. Thought it was really good. Then the next book I got into was the Meg book by Steve Alton, which is the first book in his like 7-book series. I cannot believe there's like 7 books in that series. And there's the movie too with, I think it was Jason Statham, right? The Meg is crazy. It's basically, if you've ever seen Jaws, it's got that kind of vibe going on. It's a bit different. The Megalodon is like this 60-foot long, 60,000 ton shark that for a long time they all thought was extinct, and then they find out that down in the depths of the Mariana Trench, in this area that they call the Challenger Deep, there is still megalodons down there. The reason they don't come up is because there's this area, like it's warmer down there because of the volcanic vents and whatnot. And then above, they hit a level where it's just like icy cold water. So they never really like broke through that area. But now you got people coming down there. Some stuff happens, and well, maybe a megalodon gets out and then starts eating things and people and creatures and everything in its path. And it is pissed. It was a very fun read. I think this was one of his first, if not first book that he ever wrote, because it felt a bit more simple and not as in depth. Like the only other book I've read of his so far is The Lock. I plan to read Vostok pretty soon, which is the second in the series of that. And I don't know when that was written in reference to when the Mag was written. But it just feels, The Lock felt like more mature in his writing journey, I think. I don't know. Maybe they weren't written that far apart. And also Vostok is supposed to be like a crossover novel between the Meg and The Lock. So I'll be curious to see that. And it's not even like a crossover from the first book. It's like from a book further in the series. So that one was a lot of fun. If you like underwater horror such as I do, The Meg is a fun, gory time. And will I be reading more in the series? Quite possibly. I mean, there's a lot of books. I see how you can go into the next one for sure. Like the next one, I completely understand. But like after that, like how do you keep going to 7 books? I guess I gotta read them to find out, right? Okay, so now I am in the middle of the book Rogue by Luke Phillips, and it's Bigfoot horror. I'm not too far in. I just started it. I'm a couple chapters in, and so far there has been a family that went on a camping trip. I don't remember what time of year it is, but it's like not really, it's kind of off season. And they're driving and all these campsites are closed, and they finally find an area that the sign was kind of hidden. You almost didn't see it, and it looked like the road hadn't really been traveled down too much, but it still has like a camping area. So the family goes, they set up all their stuff, and then they decide, oh, we're gonna go into town and eat dinner, because it's a long day of driving, setting up the camp, and instead of cooking camp food and whatnot, let's indulge a little bit and have like a nice restaurant meal. So they go, and then they come back. Oh, also, while they were setting up camp, once they were kind of finished, the 12-year-old kid, he wanders off into the woods a little bit, and he sees this like big stump in this one area, and like all of a sudden he notices like there's no sound anymore. Like all the forest noises, like the birds and the insects and everything, it's like eerily quiet. And it's kind of colder, and he sees in front of the stump what looks like breath. And he notices the breath coming out of his mouth as well. And then I can't remember, the stump moves or something, and then he freaks out and like hoofs it back to camp. And then he doesn't really say anything. But his dad picks up on like the fact that he seems kind of worried. All right, so they went to dinner and they came back. And when they come back, their camp is torn apart. The tents are ripped in half, the food's half gone, all the meat was eaten, like stuff shredded and just absolutely destroyed. And they're like, what the F? And they're like, was it a bear and whatnot? And then so like most of them are in the car, but then a creature comes. They see it, don't think it's a bear. The dad like runs into the car and gets in the car, and then like the creature like chucks a branch through their back window as they're hauling butt to get out of there. And so they make it out. Everyone survives. They go to the ranger station. They report it to the ranger. Ranger's like, oh, bears, they stand on two legs and da 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 da. And if they know there's food in there, they'll open your containers no matter what, and this, that, and the other. And then once the family leaves, the park ranger writes down like this code and reports it to this specific number. And it's obvious the park ranger knows this is not a bear. They know it's Bigfoot, dude. And then not shortly after that, when the Bigfoots, there's one specific one, and there's also like a family of Bigfoot. So you get some of the perspective from the Bigfoot too, because there's like this family. And at first I thought it was gonna be like the family was like hunting or whatever. They just seem to observe the humans. There's this other one that seems to be like a evil Bigfoot. And even the other like Bigfoot Sasquatches are wary of this one. It's pretty good so far. You pretty much dive headfirst into it, and this is what I will be reading later tonight. So, looking forward to getting more into that. And yeah, for the rest of the month, it's just going to be mainly cryptid books, and I might try to squeeze in a few other ones, but we'll see where my headspace is at because stuff's weird, guys. So we do have also a Discord. If you'd like to join us in the Cryptid Discord, I can put a link to that down below as well. And if you are interested in hearing about more books that have to do with cryptids, the next video coming up will be about that. So stick around, check it out. And if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.